If you didn't watch that installing everything video that I did, where I did the bumper and I did the leveling kit on my Ram 2500, the 2021, it's linked in the description. Check it out. It's a long video, but I have some chapter markers there. You can skip to whatever you want. This is kind of all the heavy-duty stuff that I used to make that job happen. First, let's talk about these Pro Lift jack stands. All this stuff, by the way, worked out awesome. That's why I'm talking about it. And they're cheap. That's the big thing. These Pro Lift jack stands, they're $60 each. They're 6-ton jack stands. Now, that might seem like too much. I mean, it's like, what do you need 6 ton for? Well, it's not about the weight limit. It's actually about the height. These things go from about 14.5 to about 23.5. So they go very high, and that's what you need, really. So the higher the tonnage, usually it's the bigger the jack stand. For $120, 2 jack stands, they're really solid, obviously solid. There was no real rocking issue. It was great. It has this little pin, which I've never had on a jack stand before, probably because I've never got jack stands this big. But it goes in there like that, and if you kick that lever right there, you're not going to have a problem. And usually with weight on it, there really isn't a problem. It really takes a good kick to knock this thing off when it's got weight on it. But the pin, you're 100%. With the pin, you're 100%. Nothing's breaking this pin. It comes on a little chain, which is nice. And they worked out good, and I think for the money, Amazon, I'll link them in the description. It's hard to really beat these. Maybe a Husky, they have a good one. I went to Home Depot to try and find something really big like a 6-ton. I didn't have them there. They may just be too heavy. Maybe they don't sell enough. But Amazon had these, and they're great. So let's take a look at, speaking of Husky, let's take a look at the jack that I used. Oh man, here we go. Let's pick this thing up. Okay. Now, clearly this thing is heavy, but you shouldn't be picking it up, really. You roll it around. Obviously not an aluminum jack. This is a steel jack. It's a 3-ton Husky. It cost me $130, I believe it was. I believe it was $130, $120 or $130. I'll find it and link it. This handle is long, and it goes up pretty quick. It's not like one of those crazy freaking, race car pit stop type where you do it 2 pumps and you jack the thing up 3 feet. It's not like that, but you don't really need that. You need something like this where it's fast and it's also very safe. And the safety is this, is that you twist it here for it to go down, and then you can twist it back and jack right away. If you saw in that video, I had 2 jacks. This one and another old red one I've had for more than 20 years. That's one where you got to pull the handle out. You got to turn that dial to let the pressure down. Then you have to turn it back, and then you have to take it out to jack it up. Safety-wise, sometimes when you do this thing can go down really quick, and you want to be able to easily tighten and jack it up for safety reasons. That's what this does. I like it. This handles 2 pieces. Now you might say, that's kind of crappy that it's a 2-piece handle. It actually doesn't really make a difference at all. But as of this moment, I mean, maybe this thing will get loose over time. I'm not sure, and I'll have to tighten it up. But I like it that it's 2 pieces because if I wanted to bring this jack somewhere, I can just take this handle off and disconnect these 2 pieces, and now we're talking in a very small space. So even though it is a heavy-duty jack and it weighs a lot, it will get into a very small space when you take this handle apart into 2 pieces. This thing worked out. All these nuts did not loosen up. They're still tight. There's no rust on this thing. I've had it for a while. Actually, there's just a hair of rust back here, just a little bit, but nothing, just basically from the paint chipped and it's just sitting around in wet areas, like damp. The garage is damp. The grease is still on here, which is interesting. There's still grease right on this jacking position right here. So it's going smooth. It's worked out good. I'm happy with it. I would definitely. I have no problems with this. I would definitely recommend it. Let's take a look at the engine hoist that I used. All right, this is the Pittsburgh 2-ton. Pittsburgh is Harbor Freight. And I bought this used off of Facebook Marketplace for $150. New, it's, I believe, $280. Again, I'll link this in the description, just like the other stuff. here's what I'm going to say about an engine hoist. Two things. Try and find them used. And make sure you get one that folds up. This folds up. You take these pins out, these legs come up, and then it rides on the wheel that's here and the wheel that's there, and you can roll it around, super simple, right into a corner of your shop. You want a fold up one and you want a used one, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of times what happens is that somebody needs to get a job done, they buy an engine hoist, and they really don't have any use for it anymore. So they get rid of it, and that's what happened with this one. Guy bought it to take an engine out and put an engine in. He paid 200 and whatever, 80 bucks for it plus tax. And then he sold it to me for 150 cash. Thing is brand spanking new. It's great. This thing extends out. Right now, it's in like the 2-ton position, but if you extend it all the way out, it goes to a 1/2 ton, which is 1,000 pounds, which I could have used, but I used it closed up to lift up that bumper. It rolls around really good. Obviously, like I said, it folds up. This thing is awesome. And I have a big enough shop where I'm at like 1,400 square feet or something like that, where I can put this in a corner and not have to worry about it ever. When I need it, it's there. For $150, I'm not selling this thing again. Without a doubt, I'm going to hold on to it. But somebody that's doing a job in like a single garage, doesn't have room for it, doesn't want to leave it outside so it rusts, they're going to get rid of it. There's engine hoists all over Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. They're all over. You could just type it in. You're going to see like 10 in your area. Again, look for a cheap one. Look for one that's barely been used. Look for fold-up ones. The fold-up one is really good. Now, granted, I don't know. Maybe if you need a 4-ton, I don't know if you can get a fold-up one in 4-ton. But if all you need to do is take out an engine, even a freaking diesel engine, I think you're going to be fine. 2-ton, you're talking about 4,000 pounds. I don't think, unless you're taking out a tractor trailer, diesel, I would assume it's not going to be heavier than 2 tons. But this worked out great, and I got a bunch of other projects I'm going to use it for. Rolls around super smooth. Even with that bumper in there, man, it's like it wasn't even on there. It's great. It's great. Let's talk about something you wouldn't think that I needed for that job. That cart over there. So you might be asking yourself, what in the world you need this cart for? Well, when I got those bumpers, the front and back bumper, you can't move those things around. I mean, you can pick one up. It took everything I got to get it out of the truck. It's awkward to pick up. It's very heavy, and it's not just straight. It's not like you're picking up a 150-pound barbell. You're picking up something that goes this way and then angles. So when you pick it up, the weight, it flips over. And that metal, it's sharp. It will eat up your hands. So what I did is that I got it home. I took it off the truck and immediately dropped it onto this cart, this way. And I took the back bumper too. I put it right next to it. And this cart moved it around like it was nothing. It's unbelievable. This cart is rated to 1,500 pounds. I don't know what you could put in this small space that would be 15, maybe tungsten, a big cube. If you like crypto, it's a 14-inch cube of tungsten. Maybe you could put it in here and that would be great, right? But I don't know what else. I put boulders in this thing. I put gravel. We bought a hot tub. I got it delivered. They had a forklift. They dropped it right on this thing, and I rolled it from the front yard all the way to the back, and I pushed it into place. Obviously, it was empty, but we're talking about 400 pounds. And it was massive, too. It's big. It's like a 4-person hot tub. Sat on this thing, no problem. It's got this handle. Great. You can hook it up to a little mower. I have a John Deere that I hook this thing up to all the time. This thing is super helpful. Anything that's heavy that you're taking off, you could throw it in there. Tools also. If I got a job in the backyard or something like that, I throw a whole bunch of tools in here, bring them over there, throw it on the John Deere, drive it over there. Same thing with the truck. You take it off, I don't know, anything. If you're doing a brake job or whatever, you could have all your rotors in here. You could wheel it around to each corner. You could take the old ones, drop it in here. You never have a problem with they're laying around, you trip over them. This cart has been so helpful for me. I've had it for 5 years, indispensable. I think it costs $130, Tractor Supply. I don't know if they still sell this company. It's Groundwork, that's the company. But either way, one of these heavy duty, this is plastic. This plastic carts, they're useful. You could put a top on this and then just use it as a little workbench or lay out some parts and you wheel them around. Thing's great. Never have to worry about weight. All right, maybe we could do a couple of bonus maybe we could do a couple of bonus tools. These are the tools that I use for that job, but you know, I got a couple other ones I'll show you real quick. Let's get back to the table. All right, a couple bonus tools. This obviously I didn't use, but for heavy duty trucks, you might want to pick one of these things up. I got it from Harbor Freight for $38. It's a drop hitch. But if you look up drop hitches, usually 200 bucks, 250, 300, and it's because they can tow like 20,000 pounds. But if you're like me, whereas at this moment, you're really not towing that much, maybe a drift boat, maybe a small trailer, that you go to Home Depot to pick up wood, it's not going to be over 5,000 pounds. That's what the rating on this is, 5,000. Even a little travel trailer, they can be less than 5,000 pounds. This thing, super helpful, even on a 1500 truck. And I'll tell you why. When I had my 1500, towing the drift boat was still kind of like, it was still leaning a little bit. And when you hook something like a drift boat up where it's very light and you have it on an angle, if you hit a bump, you can hear it rattle. If you're pulling around a trailer and you hear it rattle all the time, it's usually because you don't have enough tongue weight. But also, if it's angled like this, it really doesn't matter if you have a lot of tongue weight, because what's going on is that gravity is pulling this thing down, and when you hit a bump, gravity wants to turn this thing over, whatever is in the trailer. You need to bring that tongue down, and a drop hitch like this, for basically no money, it's going to solve your problem. It's a lot safer. This has 8 adjustments. Now you might say to yourself, how does it have 8 adjustments? Well, because, let me take these pins out. You got 4 just like this. It's 2 pins. You can also flip it like this, and then you can turn the ball around, and that gets you another 4. So it's 4, you flip it around, and then you get another 4. This thing's great. I think it looks good. I like that it's black. I would recommend picking one up. Even if you have a 1500, it's worth it to get this. Unless you're towing, let's say if you're towing 10,000 pounds, yeah, you're going to have to invest. And you shouldn't really be towing 10,000 pounds with a, well, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, you might have to invest into a heavier duty drop hitch. But if you're towing 5,000 or less, it doesn't make sense not to get this and just get rid of that single one, the straight one. And this is a 2-inch, by the way. So if you have a 3/4 ton truck, usually it comes with a 2.5-inch hitch, right? Well, you probably would need this, which is an adapter. Sometimes if you buy them new, this came with my truck. If you buy a truck new, usually they give you this adapter with it. They gave it with mine. It's pretty cool. Again, it's 2 pins, and then the cotter pins are here. Works out great. Now, I guess let's talk about the cheapest tool of them all that really you should have in your shop when you're working on a heavy duty truck, or really pretty much anything. This right here, it's a pipe. This is an 1.5-inch pipe. This pipe, first of all, I've had it forever, ever. And in fact, I'll tell you what I used it for. A long time ago, I rebuilt a transmission on a Mustang. It was a 92 Mustang. And I used this pipe to hammer in a bearing, right, onto the input shaft. And I kept it ever since. And I've never used it again to hammer in a bearing on an input shaft. I've been using it on a ratchet. And even on a ratchet or a breaker bar, you could turn an 18-inch breaker bar into a 24-inch breaker bar, a 12-inch breaker bar into an 18. It's even you get a longer pipe. I'm telling you, you don't have an impact. I recently bought a Milwaukee Impact, a stubby. I'm not gonna show it to you here because it's 200 bucks. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. This pipe, this is cheap. You can put this on here, no problem. I would highly suggest you keep couple pipes around it. If you have a friend with a pipe bender, put a little, maybe 9 inches down, put a hair of a bend in it, just a little tweak, because what that'll allow you to do is you'll be able to like get around things. You'll be able to, redirect this, because this might be too long. You have to put a ratchet in here, a 12-inch, breaker bar. You put something, an 18 might not be good enough, so you want to be able to change the angle. Speaking of changing the angle, this is a 32 millimeter open-ended wrench. And I'm going to tell you when I bought this. This is another thing that's over 20 years old. I need to do a video on all the tools that I have are over 20 years old. I use this to change a water pump on a 1998 323 IS BMW. This fan clutch, to hold the fan clutch to undo the fan. I never used it again after that for a nut or a bolt. You know what I used it for? Like this, changing the angle and getting leverage. It works both ways too. There's a little bit of an angle here, so if you look at this, look at the angle of there, and look at the angle like that. You see that? It's very, very useful. You put this thing on here, and let me tell you something. You're in a wheel well behind a caliper where you can't get up here, right? This thing changes the angle. It's great. Pipe. This obviously is a little more expensive than a pipe. That's why I mentioned if you have a pipe and you know somebody with a pipe bender, or just go see somebody, say, hey, listen, can I throw you $10 to throw a little bend in this pipe? Get yourself a couple different ones. That's a 12-inch. Get yourself an 18-inch pipe. These are standard pipe. You just go to Home Depot. You can just buy this. They're already cut there, done, finished. So that's it. Heavy-duty tools, or I guess maybe heavy-duty tips with these last two. But the other stuff, that's what I used on that video. Again, it's in the description. And anything that I'm showing here, with the exception, I guess, of a pipe and this open-ended wrench, the other stuff, I'll link that too down there. All right. Thanks. See ya.